Hi, this is Dodger, and you're watching my show.
Three, two, one, ready, go.
I have two new fantastic things in my life. One is this adorable little fox boy. You can only see the bottom part of it in this, but if you go to my Twitter, you can see his full form. He's just like so awkward and looks so concerned for me, which makes sense because he's gazing down at my life. The other thing is I have these new pants. I can't see them, but they look like they've got a magic circle from Full Metal Alchemist on them, and I'm super into it. Whew, I'm also now exhausted. I used to be a dancer. I used to have to do kick line, y'all. Now I could go for a nap. There's a bug in here. So for our first piece of news, a lot of people like to joke that in Marvel vs. Capcom, if you are the first person to get hit, more than likely you're gonna wind up losing. Because there are so many combos, there's just so much going on. It's really hard to get a combo break in, right? Like, the likelihood that you're just gonna get teamed up by 3 different characters alternating in, doing crazy combos, and then just lose the whole thing is fairly high. Or at least that's what people like to say and joke about. However, in this situation, actually got trapped by a Dante Infinite combo. To the point where the person who was having to just like hang out and wait for the combo to get done was able to check his phone. Now, some people feel like this is kind of bad-mannered, that to like pull your phone out while you're in the middle of a game is very unsportsmanly, right? And then on the other side, everyone's saying it's kind of unsportsmanly to use what you know is an infinite combo inside of a tournament, right? Like that's not showing your best face as a fighter. But infinite combos are something that pretty much every game company should be trying to take out of their games, right? And especially in Marvel vs. Capcom, they've said specifically that they want to get rid of them. So, you know, on one hand, I'm like, it's good that they highlighted it, right? Even though it was an exploit that was used in a moment where a guy wanted to win. And fortunately, Phone Bro won that match, or won that game, but didn't win the match overall, I believe. So inside of that game, it didn't matter very much. He just lost 1 character and then was down to 2 and still wound up winning that specific game. But I'm kind of glad that they did it in such a public way, right? Because now everybody's going, Marvel, what the hecky hey? I just feel like maybe we should all be jazzed for a new Marvel vs. Capcom game. That's all. Blizzard always loves having all of their games interconnect. We've talked about that a lot, especially inside of game lore, having characters overlap, having, you know, you play this certain game and then you get a cool customizable thing in the other game. But now they've taken it a step further in a way that I think most people are gonna be super excited about. If you are the sort of person who has just countless hours in WoW, that grinds for gold all the time, you probably know that you can actually use that gold in order to buy time inside of World of Warcraft. So you can use gold to purchase a token and then use the token and redeem it for a certain amount of game time. They are making it so that if you are somebody who has a bunch of WoW gold, you can use it to redeem Overwatch loot crates and also get Hearthstone cards. I feel like just across the board, when they announced that you would be able to use that gold to get game time inside of an MMO, that was very, very smart. And now, again, utilizing their method of how can we have everything just double back in on itself and help the whole ecosystem of all the Blizzard properties, right? This is, again, another really smart thing, because there are 2 things that people do not want to spend money on, but they still want to get all the stuff: Hearthstone cards and Overwatch loot boxes. So now, every time there's, you know, a seasonal event inside of Overwatch, or every time there's a new set inside of Hearthstone, you'll be able to get those packs regardless of the game, and try to redeem that way. Now, I'm not about to, I'm not about to act like I'm a person who knows the World of Warcraft marketplace really well, but I do know people who have a lot of money and are not honestly really sure what to do with it at this point, because they're not, like raiding a bunch. They're not constantly trying to get like better gear or anything. They just like utilizing the economy. They like being part of the economy of World of Warcraft, and they just have a bunch of money. Here you go, buds. Here's something you can use it on. Speaking of Blizzard, and specifically Overwatch, there is a new dev diary that you can watch that talks about some stuff that I think most people felt should have been added pretty early on, but still jazzed about it. They are adding in a server browser, number one. So that's something that TF2 has had for a really long time, where you can just like browse through a bunch of different servers, a bunch of different games that are going on, and be able to join one that looks like it makes sense for you. It sounds like a fun game, right? The other thing is they're having fully customizable matches. So you can change everything from like where the match is happening, to how many heroes of the same type can be on a team, to like which abilities are you allowed to use, right? So like an example that they gave was you could have a game that's entirely Widowmakers and they can only use their grappling hooks. So it's like, what? I think that kind of stuff is going to be really, really fun and is going to add, not to constantly compare Overwatch to TF2, but you know, there are a lot of similarities in terms of game type, and TF2 has been around for so long. People are starting to use these customize options to make really, really silly games, right? And one of the things that's always been so fun and magical about TF2 is that it just didn't ever take itself seriously, right? It was always just very, very silly, whether it was in the comics, whether it was in the game, like anytime people were messing around with the Steam Workshop and just like creating all of these animations, you know, any of that stuff, it just always had this really silly tone. And they've bottled up that weirdness and they've now started pulling it over into Overwatch, and I'm so okay with it. So if you and your friends really just want to join an Overwatch game that's silly, you know, where nobody's taking it too seriously, you just want to see what happens when you have infinite grappling hooks, now you can. It's all up, it's all live, it's all ready to go. So go mess around with it. I think that a lot of game companies and publishers and developers are starting to realize that if they have a game that is especially competitive, that's been around for a while, why not have an official esports league for it? You know, people are starting to take esports leagues more seriously now. I think that it makes sense, like specifically from the company's point of view, right? If you want to have an official league for your game, it makes sense for you to make sure that you're in control of all of it, that you're making choices that make sense for the property. Obviously, sometimes that includes financial choices. That's just how business goes. But this one specifically is about NBA, not like the for reals NBA, but like the NBA games. Shout out to my alter ego, Shout out to my alter ego, Dudeger. We did the like face scanning thing inside of NBA, and it scanned my face and then created that. And he's just ready to play some b-ball. But yeah, they're starting an NBA esports league, so that's pretty exciting. I specifically am the sort of person where when I stumble onto somebody who has a crazy number of subscribers or just incredible viewership, right, on Twitch or on YouTube, and they play some kind of a sports game, I'm just like, wow, this is a world that I am not, like, I'm on the fringes of this, right? It's just really interesting how the world of video games can be so split in very specific ways. And I think that people who are sports game enthusiasts wind up being in their own kind of bubble sometimes. And I'm hoping that having like an official league for NBA esports will be a way for more and more people to see them. And again, like, they already get perfectly fine viewership, right? But I think the amount of times that we all extend hands toward one another is rare. Is like when a new NBA game comes out, suddenly all of us are trying out NBA, right? And then it sort of leaves our view. But for them, they play it every day, whether it's, you know, NBA or FIFA or whatever it is. And again, you know, I'm always a firm believer that the closer and tighter we can become as a community, the better. Like, for all of us to have one another's backs, because we all want gaming and esports to be, you know, a thing that more and more and more people can enjoy. So having NBA have its own esports league, I think would be a positive. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section. It is no secret that Valve has been working on a VR system, but did you know they are also working on virtual reality games? And not just virtual reality experiences, on games. Now I know that hearing that they're making 3 games sounds like shenanigans because they never make 3 of anything, how dare you. But yeah, apparently they really are working on 3 different virtual reality games that will work with the system. They kind of want to mimic the way that Nintendo works, because this is the way Nintendo's always worked, right? They come up with a system that has something new about it, and then they specifically tailor games that they're making at the same time to take advantage of the system. Now I feel like every time Nintendo's, got a lot of focus on it, people say, God, Nintendo, will you just give up and just make games? Stop making systems, they're all gimmicky and weird, just make games. Not everybody feels that way, but that's a sentiment that winds up, running around a bit once they're in the limelight, kind of like with Switch right now. But I think that it's cool that we're seeing an instance where a company is inspired by that, where they're going, yeah, you're right. We can be working on a system and games at the exact same time and make sure that they are completely cohesive and they're in sync with one another and they make sense as a whole. When I say that we're building 3 games, we're building 3 full games, not experiments. One of the questions you might be asking is, why in the world would you be making hardware? What we can do now is we can be designing hardware at the same time that we're designing software. This is something that Miyamoto has always had. He's had the ability to think about what the input device is and design a system while he designs games. Our sense is that this will actually allow us to build much better entertainment experiences for people. So those were quotes from Gabe Newell. The games are being developed in Source 2 and Unity, and we don't really have a timeline on any of this. But we know that they're making games, which, how often does Valve make games? Not very often. And as a final bit of news, we're getting a Castlevania Netflix show. It's supposed to be super gory and super ridiculous, and I can't wait. Castlevania is one of those properties that has just so much going on, right? There's the whole family, and there's so many games that had just ridiculous things happen in them. I want to see them try to make a show. I want to see them try to make a show out of this, because they've said they want it to be like video game Game of Thrones, and I'm down. Try to make that for Netflix. I'm into it. Now, a bunch of people think that Adi Shankar, who made the gritty Power Rangers reboot video that a bunch of us saw, a lot of people think that he's the one who's working on this for 2 reasons. One is that a while back on a podcast, I'll read it to you, but he basically was like, I'm working on a thing, and I can't say what it is, but it's gonna be pretty great. And then later he tweeted and was like, I'm working on a Castlevania thing. So everybody's connecting the dots and be like, the Netflix Castlevania thing is the Adi Shankar thing. But that hasn't been confirmed by anybody. I'll read them. So on the Nick Animation podcast, he said, we have a project right now that we're doing that needs to go unnamed, based on one of the most world-famous video games of the last 30 years that we've had in our shop for 12 years without being able to get it started. But there were great characters and a great story, and eventually we got it going. And then there was a tweet that said, breaking news, I'm producing a super violent Castlevania mini-series with my homies Fred Siebert and Kevin Klond. It's going to be dark, satirical, and after a decade of propaganda, it'll flip the vampire subgenre on its head. All of that was said a year ago. So he said that, never mentioned Netflix at all. And now Netflix is saying, Castlevania Season 1 Part 1 coming out in 2017 on Netflix. So it makes sense that everybody's going, but I'm excited. If they really are going to have it come out this year, that means that they're already pretty full on into production. I want to see some pictures immediately. I need to know what these people look like, because I don't know how many of you have actually sat down and played some Castlevania games, but the art in them is always just weird and beautiful and haunting and silly. So if they can combine all of that into a show, I'll be delighted. But anywho, that's been my show. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a positive or a negative response, feel free to leave it in my comment section. And if you would like to watch my streams, you can find them at twitch.tv/dexbonus. If you would like to watch some of the VODs, I've been just spam uploading them on youtube.com/dexteritybonus. That is nearly over, I promise, and then we'll be all caught up and I'll just be uploading VODs as we stream. But yeah, I hope that you're enjoying. I hope that you like anime news. I hope that you're having a lovely life. And I will see you again next time. Okay? Bye-bye. Mwah. Ah. Oh.